Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Sharon Let's Live with Marlene Dillon Empowerment Specialist. Can I be honest? I love being a mom, and there's some aspects about that that can be a lot of work. I am the type of person who I love to cook. I love the details of creating like the perfect snack and displaying it all cute and awesomely, like I should be doing little Pinterest posts. I don't do Pinterest posts, but I love doing those kinds of things. I've loved it since I was a kid. I would make myself a sandwich, and then I would, cut it diagonally, and then I would fill the center with chips, and I would always like have my cute little display for my meals. And I enjoy that. Another thing about me is I hate having to do anything out of obligation. I love doing things because I want to. I don't like doing things because I have to. And parenting requires a lot, especially if you're a single parent, requires you to do a lot of things that you don't necessarily want to do, and you have to do them every single day. So one of the things that the pandemic definitely amped up was, with everyone being home, that meant that like meals that I used to get out of, I couldn't anymore. So I was, doing breakfast, lunch, dinner, plus snacks. So my joy for cooking and preparing snacks and meals, it kind of wore down. And the more that I take on new things and continue doing inner work and all that kind of stuff, plus trying to like get my business into the place that I want it to be, I am really tired. So today I took a nap in the evening, and apparently, I wasn't planning to take a nap. Let me say that. I was actually sitting up listening to an audiobook, and then I woke up and realized that it was 10 o'clock. And which meant that my plan to run to the grocery store to get like some chicken or something so that I have something to cook for dinner, that I couldn't do that, which meant that I didn't have anything in the house to make for dinner, at least nothing that I wanted or that she would want. Anyway, point is, I woke up too late to buy dinner, and there aren't a lot of 24-hour restaurants in my neighborhood. Actually, I can only think of like one. So I was kind of panicking, and then I was just like, you know what? We're having a Brenner, as we call it. And I went upstairs and I made some couple omelets, made some bacon, some sausage. And I was like, you know what? That's dinner tonight. Because the other things that were available, I know she's not going to eat them. And it was just like, make something that she'll eat. And I'm going to have to let that be okay. So I told you I've been doing all this inner work, and prior to so I've told you I've been doing this inner work, and the work that I've been doing has been around beliefs, about the beliefs like I hold about myself, just beliefs that I've picked up from, those in my environment who have, taught me this is what a mother is, this is what a good human is, this is what a good woman is, this is what, this is the kind of woman that a man wants to be with. Like all these different like beliefs, or, this is what you should value. This is what's important. This is what makes a person a good person, like all that stuff. And I had been carrying other people's definitions of all of those things and then some. So for the longest time, and when I say for the longest time, I mean up until about a month ago, probably more like 2 weeks ago. Maybe it wasn't even a whole month ago. I would have all of these, I'm not a good mother if I don't do this. I'm not a good mother if I don't do that. I'm not a good mother because of this. And basically like I actually did a post about it some time ago, or a podcast episode about it. about how that's like the running tape in my mind, where it's like it washes off like good mother until. So what I realized today is that as a result of the inner work that I've been doing, that I finally accepted that I don't have to follow that train of thought into this like deep abyss of I am a horrible mother every time the words come to my mind, every time that thought comes to me. So today, or tonight when, I gave her this Brenner. At first I felt bad because like it didn't meet the standard of what she was hoping for. And she's used to a certain quality of food. So when I pulled out scrambled eggs and bacon and sausage for dinner, she's like, what is this? Like she feels like she's getting a prison meal. And because I know I could have just not given her anything and let her like scrounge around in the freezer and figure out something on her own, I chose to not do what I normally do. I chose to ignore that voice in my head that was saying, I'm a bad mother. I chose to say, look, I prepared something for her to eat. If she doesn't eat it, that's her business. But I did my part, and I actually went out of my way to make sure that she had something to eat. So I'm not going to feel bad about that today. And that was such a huge breakthrough for me. So I mentioned yesterday that this series of podcast episodes for the month of July is about communication. And so the gift of the inner work that I've been doing of taking the time to recognize what my beliefs are versus what other people's beliefs are, or other beliefs that have been given to me, is that now I have something to combat that voice that says you're not a good mother because you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that, you didn't do that. And now, because I no longer am evaluating my motherhood based on other people's criteria, I'm able to empower myself in those moments and not give in to that voice. But I had to do the work, and I say work, and it's work, but it's not like work. It could be a 15-minute like thought process, like while you're on the train or while you're in traffic or while you're in the bathroom. I don't care, while you're drinking your coffee, to just take the time to really think about the things like those. The things that you find yourself critiquing yourself about, or the things that your mind that is critiquing you about, and then really ask yourself, whose voice is that? Is that really how I feel about that? How do I feel about that? If that isn't how I truly feel, because the thing is that a lot of the beliefs that we hold and a lot of the ways that we criticize ourselves and a lot of the inner dialogue that we have is really the voice of someone else. One thing that I've heard said and that I know to be true for so many people, myself included, is that the voice that your parents' voice or the other people of influence, maybe like a teacher or older sibling or somebody, maybe you were raised by a grandma or, foster parent, that the voice of your inner critic is typically one of those people's voices. It's typically that person's language on repeat. And if you really sit with it, you're able to recognize, like, wait a minute. And I gave this example before, but it's valuable because I'm not going to assume you've listened to every episode. That I was in the grocery store and I, had just come into some money, and not like I that sounds so sinister. I had just received a check that I was waiting on, that I was expecting. I just came into some money from that job, it sounds like I did a heist or something, which I'm totally not capable of. I'm but anyway, so I received some money that I was anticipating. And I went to the grocery store and I was like filling up my cart, And I was, buying stuff that was, like on the list, and things that I had like in that mental list where you're like, oh, I'm out of this, I'm out of that, and you might not have wrote it on the list. It was that type of thing. So I was putting something in the cart, and as I grabbed it, I started to have like all but a panic attack in the grocery store, like, oh my God, I'm spending too much money. Why do, my cart is too full. Oh my goodness, I'm just doing too much, and da da da. And I'm just like really, really. Is that a Chicago thing? Da 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 da. Yada yada yada. Woo wop the ma'am or whatever. Um, so I'm in the aisle, like totally freaking out. Thank God nobody else was there. But I'm just like freaking out, like, oh my God, I'm spending too much money, yada yada yada. And then like my inner guidance, like that inner higher version of me voice was just like, whose voice is that? And it was such a powerful moment because I paused right then and I was like, actually, that sounds like my mom's voice. Because, like that was something that I was used to, of her having kind of a panicked, critical voice when it came to me using money. Like, oh my goodness, you just got your money and you're already spending it all. You need to save. You need to, that type of thing. Like, it's not like a diss to my mom. I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of people and parents who do that. So, but in that moment, I was thinking that it was me, but it was actually not me. It was just her voice that was on loop in my mind, like making me feel bad and irresponsible for buying this thing. So that same inner voice was like, how do you actually feel? Like, how do you feel about this? And I was just like, well, actually, I don't feel bad about this. I'm actually really grateful that I'm able to buy this thing that I've been wanting to buy. Like, I was waiting for this money to come in so I'd be able to do this, so that I'll be able to go shopping and get these things that I needed. So actually, I'm grateful. I'm not actually panicked or worried or feeling irresponsible. I actually feel very grateful. And in that moment, I was able to like pull myself out of that self-critical dialogue that was going on in my head, and I say dialogue rather than monologue because it was like, you're being irresponsible, you suck. And I'm like, my response is, you're right, I should stop buying things, and but now I'm aware of it, so I can go into these moments. So when that stuff because it still happens, I feel my heart racing and all that kind of stuff. I'm in the grocery store, my cart is getting too full, and then I start to go into that panic, and then it's like, wait a minute, did I pick up anything that I didn't intend to pick up? Am I actually being frivolous? Are these the things that I actually plan to get? Is there anything that I need to put back? Like, I just have like a calm conversation with myself in the aisle. Like, I mean, if my mask is on, I might do it out loud, but typically, it could be just thoughts or whatever. And then I like go through the cart and think like, okay, rather than panic, is there anything in here that I really don't need to buy today? Is there anything in here that I'm like just doing the most? Okay, I can put that back. And then I'm calm, and then I go and I buy my things, and that is the type of thing that I want you to gain from this talk today. This is July, and the theme for July is Let's Try July. So for your Let's Try July opportunity, try paying attention to that inner voice, that critical voice that tells you you're doing the wrong thing, or that you're, gonna be broke in a week, or that you're never gonna get a man, or that you're just like your daddy, or all of those things that like come up that are actually, if you pay attention, are not actually your authentic voice. Like when you hear those criticisms, those critiques coming up in your mind, to actually pause and think about it. And try to think, where did that voice come from? Try to think, whose voice is that really? Try to think if you actually really agree. Better yet, before you go to the do I agree, because if you're really self-critical, as I have been for most of my life, it's very easy to be like, well, I am, like, and what, like I talked about it in the post, I think yesterday or today, about how I was like just crying about how inconsolably about feeling like I was a failure. And then 2 days later, I discovered that I'm actually doing really well. It's just one area in particular that I'm not thriving in, and I made that my world. Like, that was how I was judging my value, was based on that one area and not paying attention to all the ways that I was winning. So, so I would have very easily, like, if the inner voice was saying you're a failure, I'd be like, well, that bitch is right. So, so I don't want you to go straight to, do you agree? What I want you to look at is, how do you decide? Like, what do you value? What do you believe about this thing? Like, take yourself out of it. If you were looking at a friend who is in the exact same position, how would you view them? What would be your response to them? How would you be encouraging, or would you be as judgmental as you're being and critical of them as you are being toward yourself? And if that's the case, do you feel that that's actually supportive? And it might be to you. But the main thing is to begin to look at things and evaluate things, especially to evaluate yourself based on your own criteria and not the criteria that other people have poured into your mind over your lifetime. Yeah, so take the time to really, like, if you catch yourself being critical today, whether it's, I suck at my job, I'm going to get fired here, or I'm a bad mom, or I'm a horrible wife, or whatever, like, whatever that go-to criticism is that runs through your mind all the time, just try to catch it and try to look at whose criteria you're using to evaluate yourself, and decide if you want to continue doing that. Because if it's not actually the way that you look at, when I look at other mothers, do I think that they're a bad mother if they gave their kid breakfast for dinner? No. I totally get that, because I understand what it is to be tired. I understand what it is to not have groceries in the house because you didn't have time to go grocery shopping. And I get to evaluate myself based on the criteria that I would evaluate somebody else. And sometimes we have to look at the way that we are very critical of others, because a lot of times that's part of the reason why we're so self-critical, is that we think other people are going to judge us the way that we judge them. So that's motivation for us to stop being so judgmental. So today is July 2nd, which means that this is day 2 of my Let's Try July challenge, where I am posting an empowering podcast every day for the entire month of July. Have an amazing whatever time of day it is for you. This is Marlene Dillon Empowerment Specialist. Blessings. To learn more about me, Marlene Dillon Empowerment Specialist, please visit mdillondesigns.com. There you can find more podcast episodes, you can read my inspirational blog, you can check out my online store of personalized gifts featuring the characters from my empowering children's book, I'm Proud to Be Natural Me. You can find parenting resources, including my online communication course, Healing Our Families, Healing the Parent-Child Relationship. Please follow and share if you found this podcast inspiring. Thank you, and have an amazing day.